welcome. And if this isn't your first video, welcome back. My name is Richard, and I am the Collections Manager at the Manitoba Indigenous Cultural Education Center. And this is part of our Conservation Cafe project. Specifically, today we're making some videos related to various items and materials that you will likely find in your house or somewhere in your community, and giving you some ideas and tips on how to care for them and keep them cared for in whatever use case that you find yourself in. I'm here today with Amanda, and she'll help walk us through this.
Hi, my name is Amanda McLeod. I'm a member of Saging Anishinaabe Nation, and my background is actually in conservation and curating. So I did train officially in conservation, I guess from an institutional museum perspective. But my practice is actually finding the balance between kind of the institutional training I got and the realities in terms of how to care for our belongings in a respectful way that ensures use and relationship. Because with museums, a lot of the times it's kind of, the goal is just to protect it as much as possible and not necessarily have it in use. So in reality, in community, a lot of the times we do still want to use the stuff. And it's also to make sure that, to talk about ways to care for different belongings using the stuff that you would have in your house or that you can find pretty easily. So here we have moccasins here, but it's not necessarily just moccasins. It's that we're talking about for this. It does have to do with like the material. So talking about beadwork and talking about hide and fur. And so for this, these are in fantastic shape, these moccasins. You can see there is like a little bit of deposits on the bottom and a tiny bit of wear.
They have been worn.
Yes, you can see the shape of the foot on the bottom of the moccasin. So a big thing with, say, the beadwork, for the whole moccasin, you kind of want to avoid, I guess, introducing moisture as much as possible. Like you're not going to put them in a bath, really. But beadwork sometimes does get dirty, and so you do want to clean it. And so to do that is you can use saliva if you want. Saliva is a fantastic material for cleaning because it does break down fatty materials and dirt and starchy materials and stuff. And you could use water. Tap water is fine, maybe boiled. So we talk about, like, say in museums, we have a lot of the times we use deionized water. And so that has a lot of the materials and chemicals taken out of it. You can actually get distilled water in a lot of grocery stores. And so that also has the different minerals and chemicals taken out of it. But if you use boiled water, it's fine. If you can only use tap water, that's totally fine too. You don't want to introduce a lot of moisture because then you're kind of affecting the threads. Yeah,
that's the key is using just enough to be useful, but not enough to overdo it or to soak or to,
exactly. Because it depends on how old the beadwork is as well. That the tension in the thread could, if you get the thread wet. And then it kind of affects the fibers, and then it can cause it to snap, and then you start getting a loss of beads. In museums, when you're talking about really not just necessarily beadwork, but a lot of different belongings in the collections, try to avoid introducing new materials into a historical object, essentially. But in community, obviously, we're totally fine rebeading stuff as necessary. So totally fine to, like, if you're losing beads, to replace the beads as needed. If you're not going to replace the beads, best thing to do is to tack it down where the beads are starting to fall off, because you don't want to lose any more beads. And then when we're talking about, say, the hide, and you're wanting to clean something like this, this one isn't too bad, but say for like a jacket. Before we started filming, I was talking about a jacket that I just worked on last month for MICEC Cultural Center, Cree Nation's Cultural Center, that opened last month. They had this jacket. It was a bomber jacket from the 1970s that was quite dirty, and it had also been like just rolled really tightly into a bag and stored like that for a very long time. And so they wanted to display it. And so it was something that I came in to clean, and I just did dry cleaning on it, meaning I didn't introduce any liquids to it. And so the thing with hide is, like, our hands have quite a bit of like oil and stuff that
Yep.
can build up. And so if you have that, if you rub that on hide a lot, then that's when you start to see a lot of the dirt on hides, or you'll see like the dark spots on hide. And so for the jacket, you could see that it was worn quite a bit. And so down by the cuffs and where the hands went into the pockets, it was quite dirty. But then also because it was a bomber jacket, it kind of creased down at the bottom, and you could see whoever used to wear it went like this. So you could see that there was like webbing of dirt. And so it was something that I went in and I was trying to clean away and using just dry materials. And so one of the best things that I actually ended up using was powdered eraser. Worked really well. And I actually just bought that at an art store.
Right.
And
So like the white Stadler kind of erasers that come with the blue.
No. It was like it came in a box, and
Okay.
it's completely powdered eraser.
Oh, it's already powdered.
It's already powdered.
Wow.
And it was in a sock, basically.
Okay.
And so it's used a lot for paper maintenance and cleaning. But it worked fantastic on the hide in terms of absorbing the oils from the surface. And so I just like rubbed the sock on as much as needed, and the powdered eraser would come out, and I would actually just use my hand. I was using, I wore gloves, nitrile gloves while I was doing it, just so I didn't have a buildup. My hands weren't completely covered in powdered eraser. And so it was just, rubbing away a lot of the oils and stuff. There were a couple really hard deposits, really stiff deposits on it. So I ended up actually I took a really sharp scalpel, and really carefully just kind of cut away.
Now, were you cutting, or were you like sort of scraping, like
I wasn't
dragging?
I kind of like scored
Okay.
the deposits because they were kind of big.
Right.
So they were really stiff, and I just scored the deposit so to weaken the deposit,
And they would just
the
kinda
sticky
fall
thing on
off.
the top, and then I just like scraped it away
Okay.
as much as possible. So I wasn't really like scraping away the fibers of the hide. And that was actually the best way to clean it. And when I did talk to them, I talked to the chief of the community, and I let her know that it was never going to look like a brand new jacket.
Right.
I could just pull out as much of the oil and dirt as possible, and it did actually work quite well. A big thing that I also did while I was doing that cleaning, and may come up if you're doing any hide belonging or moccasins or anything, is I actually, because I did have to vacuum up all that powdered eraser. So we've got a really big vacuum here as an example, but it was just using like a soft brush. I did get some of the some brushes, soft brushes from the Artist Emporium, where I got the powdered eraser. But you can also use things like makeup brushes, because those are actually really like soft enough for your skin, so they're soft enough for delicate surfaces, and you can use that also to clean beadwork if you're just getting rid of dust and stuff. But when I was brushing away all the excess powdered eraser, I actually used a vacuum, but I cut up some pantyhose, and then I put it over the top, and I used elastics to secure it in place. So then as I was brushing, if for any reason any of the beadwork, because the beadwork was coming undone, so fortunately none did come off with it, but it allows you to catch any materials just in case. But then it also kind of like lessens the suction, because the vacuum I was using was it was a shop vac, so it wasn't a conservation.
Powerful.
It was very powerful, so I needed to kind of control the suction, so I put something over the top so it wasn't,
Makes
so it was lessened. If you have a vacuum that you can control the suction amounts, fantastic. But you can use something like pantyhose over top to kind of to lessen the suction. And you obviously, you don't want to just go onto it. It had to do with like actually just brushing away the dust and the extra powdered eraser. If you're doing something like that, something very dusty, something that might do something like powdered eraser, you want to kind of make sure to wear a mask, because you don't really want to inhale that stuff into your nose and into your lungs. It's not fun when that happens, but a big thing with if we're talking specifically about moccasins, if you're talking about storing them, you really want to make sure, because these are organic materials, right? So they are from animals, and insects love them. They do love to eat them. So you want to make sure, if you're storing them, to try to keep them in a not a very high humid area. And not to have anything pressing down on them. So if you can put them in a box, fantastic. We were talking about this in previous videos when you're talking about boxes, a lot of times those are made of cardboard, and cardboard is pretty acidic and can leach into other materials. So if you have it for long-term storage, you don't really want to put, say, something like moccasins directly on the box surface. So just put like a buffer in between, and it can be anything. The best things are really like cotton or acid-free tissue paper if you can. Acid-free tissue paper you can get online quite easily. But for the cotton, it could literally be like 100% cotton t-shirt or 100% cotton pillowcase, and just make sure that they've been washed a couple times. And then just line the box and put the moccasins in. And when they're in storage, and I guess like for example here, while they're on display, but it actually works when they're on storage too, is to kind of fill it up a little bit. So to make sure the moccasin isn't really completely flat. And so what they used here, you can use tissue paper if you want. You can use like cotton socks as well. They had actual inserts for these ones that you guys have made.
Yeah, it's just a very straightforward, basic, got your polyfill or some kind of pillow filler, and just, I think you can actually tell this was a sock at one point, and they just sort of just sealed it up with a little bit, so that you've got a bit of a volume, something that isn't hard, so it still will move or bend if necessary, but it provides just a little bit of support, because especially on some moccasins, if they're fully beaded, that beadwork can get heavy, right? And so that can start to compress the moccasin over time if it's just left to its own devices. And so if you provide a little bit of structural support, you maintain that shape a lot better over time.
Yeah. And just try to not really have them in a place that fluctuates a huge amount in terms of temperature and humidity. Try to keep them out of like really high humid environments, because that can cause stuff to start rotting away. You can start to have insect damage. You can have mold grow onto the hide and actually onto the glass and plastic beads as well, which can weaken the beads and cause them to break and stuff. So.
Yeah, kind of like in some of the other videos, you basically had mentioned if it's comfortable for you, it's likely comfortable for the materials.
Yes.
And if at all possible, if it can be consistent, right? So if it's a little dry or if it's a little humid, if it's stable, that's going to give you your best sort of level of defense against fluctuations in material conditions or situations when you all of a sudden get a change in weather and bugs or different things decide they want to come and go. And now you spoke a lot about the leather. Would you treat the fur with the same type of techniques?
With the fur too, you kind of like a damp cloth is fine.
Okay.
You really don't want to get them extremely wet,
right?
As well, because it can kind
clump.
And it can affect the fibers, and you can start having some of it like tear away.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right.
In terms of cleaning, it's not too difficult with the fur. Most of it has to do with like the buildup of moisture and insect damage that can happen with them.
Okay.
But if they're ones that you just want to keep for display, or whether they're ones that you actually want to wear, the reality is if you're wearing them, they are going to.
They will be used, yeah.
They will die at some point. So then you can possibly reuse materials. Something new.
When you're putting them on display, do you have the same types of light concerns that you would with other materials that we've talked about, like the drum or
you want
the
to
moose
avoid
tuftings?
you want to avoid direct sunlight as much as possible. Yeah, because that can just lead to drying out of the hide. Again, because direct sunlight can increase temperature. We don't want to have a huge amount of high temperature, and then the sunlight goes away, and then your temperature goes down. It's the fluctuations that we were talking about.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we also have a little handout that you can find on MICC's website at micc.com, and that can give you some pointers and help you sort of work through these types of things and give you an idea of where you might want to sort of avoid or how you might want to address certain things. I'll put a link in the description as well if you're watching this video online. And yeah, thanks again for walking us through these ones, and we've got a few more videos to shoot, and so maybe we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks.